Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing why advertising for advisors has never been easier. Now that might confuse a lot of you because you've probably tried out either lead vending, which is not considered advertising for yourself, or you've maybe tried to advertise for yourself and found very little results, or worked with an agency for advertising and have found no results from that either. And today I'm going to break down why you struggled in terms of advertising for yourself, talk about the spectrum of what creates a good ad, what creates a good campaign, and how to actually attract the right kind of people, and the big flaw that most advisors miss when they go to advertise for their firm. Now, there's a couple of different ways that people advertise in the advisory industry. You have on the far left side, fear mongering. And this is the typical annuity sales pitch that you see people go with, talking about the market crashing, what would happen if you lost all of your investments and the world comes to an end, right? That's one angle. Then you have the other angle, which is the trying to share an immense amount of value and look like this super professional firm who's a bunch of robots. And so you have these two spectrums, and you'll see it probably across your feed. You see either the one end of fear mongering or the other end of paint drying. And so the fear mongering end used to work extremely well about 2-3 years ago. Back when advertising was a little newer, people didn't necessarily know, not even newer, but at least specifically for the advisory industry, obviously. As the SEC started to allow firms to advertise, as COVID was happening and people were changing to more virtual first firms. And so fear mongering was a big hit because fear sells. And so people would see these big concerns. They just experienced a big market crash, and people were able to attract a lot of prospects through fear mongering and saw a lot of annuities and insurance products and that sort of thing. Well, now people have caught on, and prospects are a little more sophisticated, which we will dive into. And so what happens is the pendulum swings. And so it's tried to swing one way, but advisors really haven't got it right because they try to take this approach of either uber professional, where we wear super fancy suits with a brick background and we talk really slow and play elevator music behind it, and that loses audiences as well. Or you have the fear mongering side, which people are aware of. So to start, I want to talk about market sophistication. And so market sophistication is a theory coined by Eugene Schwartz. And what this theory talks about is that in every market, when it comes to advertising, there's going to be a scale of how sophisticated the market is. Now, in the advisory industry, the market wasn't very sophisticated until about 2022. The reason being, no one was really running advertisements on social media for financial advisors. Most of the marketing was done through seminars, was done through mailers, was all done on boots on the ground. And so you didn't have this big internet sphere of marketing and people talking about different investment strategies and products all over the internet and people then getting bombarded with it. So in 2020, when you started marketing, market sophistication was low. Maybe we'll say a level 2. Because prospects knew what a financial advisor was, but they weren't super aware of the different processes, the different systems. They just weren't as educated because they weren't as exposed to this information that's constantly poured into their feed. So you could use a little bit of fear mongering. You could use some of these fancy words and get people to engage and go through your funnel. Well, as the years go on and people become more sophisticated, they've gone through these funnels, they've gotten their email collected, and they've gotten bombarded with calls, they've gotten pitched annuity insurance products. They're skeptical, as anyone would be. What happens now is you have to change more to a higher level approach of showcasing your value, educating them on the unique approaches you have, why they work, and showing social proof. That's where many people miss out because they try to go, well, I'm just going to show them how amazing I am. Because a lot of advisors, you guys are very intelligent. You have a lot of unique strategies, especially when you start your own firm. You have all these unique ideas for how you can service clients and provide better service than these big banks, but you tend to throw it a little too heavily at people. It's too overwhelming. And so I want to quickly show examples of what I'm talking about. So on my screen, you'll see we've got this base level spectrum. Over here, you have fear mongering. This is the more fear mongering content. I'll show you these here in a second. And to the right, as you increase, you have true value, the value you're adding, the level of trust you're building with prospects. And then up here on this side, you have engagement. So bottom right, you see here is some of the ads we've recently been seeing coming out and a lot of people doing. You get an advisor who's maybe a little older trying to get onto social media, not saying they can't, but they go the approach of old school, very proper, no hook, no engagement. I'm just gonna tell you about how my great product I have to offer and services I have to offer. Well, the problem is you have no engagement. And unfortunately, no matter how much value you're providing, the algorithms don't work based on the value you provide. They work on engagement. Now you have to provide that value, but your ads need to entice and hook people. So what ends up happening is despite you giving all this value through the advertisements, it's just not engaging and no one's really interested in watching it, or they get bored and your click-through rate is low and your through play is very low and people just don't stay around. Now on the flip side, you have ads like this, and I will show these because these are very outlandish ads in my opinion.
How the fuck can a restructured retirement income portfolio without any 401ks IRAs or real estate help everyday Americans with $1 million saved add an extra $6,000 per month in retirement. I always heard retirement was about how much I had saved, but then I watched my 401k almost die in 2022. Meanwhile, my friend James, same $1 million saved, but his portfolio generates him $6,000.
Now, this ad may still work and it might bring you prospects, but imagine the kind of prospect who shows up expecting the secret magical thing you have can produce them $6,000 in additional retirement income. What are you going to tell them? To shove the entirety of their $1 million of investments into an annuity? And that's typically not what you're looking for when you go and start your own firm. You're looking to help people with your unique investment strategies. Sure, maybe you use investment products, but you're not trying to push them. And so what happens is you get people that aren't even interested in what you have to offer because the ad on the front end, and for example, this is a lead vendor, so this is someone who would send you the leads that they get through the system. You've never probably seen these ads, nor will you ever probably see them, but this gets clicks, but it attracts the wrong kind of people. On the other side, when you try and over-educate, you bore people. They just aren't interested. So I'm going to quickly break down exactly how you can create ads that not only build trust and educate prospects, but also engage them and keep them hooked. Let's dive over to the iPad. So diving right in, I want to break down what makes a good piece of content. This can be an ad, a VSL, a webinar training, a lead magnet, anything in that realm when you're advertising for an advisor. You're going to have 3 steps, and you probably heard of these before. You're going to have the hook, body, and the call to action. Your hook is a very important part. This is what obviously captures attention. The body is what actually provides the value, and the call to action is what gets someone to move forward. There's a delicate blend of having an effective hook, an effective body, an effective call to action, and blending them all in an engaging way. I'm going to give a couple of tidbits and actionable items to use. Number 1, first impressions matter. You cannot be recording off a low quality phone in a dark lit room. First impressions are everything when it comes to marketing. And this is something many advisors just don't even think about. They'll go and they'll record an ad and maybe the content itself is great, but if it is a low quality camera, if you are just not in a good setting, or you don't just put a little bit of effort into the setup, it doesn't matter how good your content is. You have to play the part as an advisor. People want someone who's trustworthy. They imagine someone who's intelligent, well put together. And what they do not want is someone who's salesy. And so this is a big thing, and this comes down into training in terms of actual studio content, which we dive into within our digital wealth prospecting program a lot more, but it comes down to tonality, because you can be trying to say things in a way that can come off very salesy. For example, if I were to tell you, hey, you really shouldn't be marketing this way because there's a lot better way you could be marketing today, and you could get a lot better outcomes as an advisor. Versus if I use a different tonality and I say, you do not want to be marketing this specific way as an advisor, because there's a much better way to be marketing as an advisor. Well, the first one comes off as genuine. It comes off as, hey, I'm trying to help you. The second one comes off as very salesy. Now, could the second one get a little bit better of a hook rate on the algorithm? Yes, you might get more people to watch the first 5 seconds through that. And what will happen is your CPMs might be lower, or basically more people will see it. The algorithm will push it, but it's not actually going to convert and educate people the right way. So a big thing is really going to be tonality in your actual content, along with the perception, the background setting, everything along those lines. Now, you don't want to overdo this. You don't want to talk monotone. You don't want to be boring, because that's what either the other side of the spectrum is, the people that actually provide value. And I'm assuming the people you want to attract are high net worth prospects, $1 million plus in assets. Well, in order to attract those kind of people, you have to think they're intelligent. They're not stupid. They know what investments are. They know what annuities are. They know how an advisor gets paid typically. And in order to actually sell them, they want to know your process. So a big thing here is you have to create processes. You have to create unique frameworks. And so instead of just talking about Roth IRAs, you create a unique framework to how you approach Roth IRAs. You make contrarian statements, not necessarily fear-mongering, but you say, hey, did you know that a Roth conversion might not actually be the best way to save money in taxes? You're not saying anything fear-mongering, but you're saying, hey, you need to have other pieces of your tax strategy in place. Just converting all of your money to a Roth doesn't make sense. Depends on where your tax brackets are at a certain time. It depends on a lot of different moving pieces, which you can then explain in the content that provides the value. But that's a hook. Not a fear-mongering hook like what would happen if the market dropped 100% tomorrow. Not something that is boring like, hey, I am going to help you save money in taxes, but something that piques interest and gets them to listen to what you have to say. And that really comes down to it being the hook, because the hook is really going to be one of the most important parts. Now, a big thing, and I know I speak on this a lot, but each step of your campaign is moving prospects to a different spot. Your ads are moving prospects to your funnel page. And depending on how your funnel's set up, your funnel might be moving people to opt in, It might be moving the next people to book in, watch a confirmation video, whatever it is. But each of these steps acts independently. So within each of these steps, you have to create the hook, the body, and the CTA. Just because you get someone to click your ad and go to your funnel doesn't mean now in your funnel you can be super mundane and boring and just give them this seminar style training. Because guess what? A seminar style is not going to work on the internet. Seminar style might work when you've got people trapped, you just bought them a steak dinner and they can't leave now. And you can try and pitch them and woo them and wow them in person. The unfortunate side of Facebook or the internet and marketing is they can leave at any time. So yes, you have to provide value, but it has to be in an engaging way. Well, how do we do this in an engaging way? Stories. We've seen the biggest success is going to be in stories. Examples of scenarios, stories of clients, case studies, anything along those lines. That is going to provide value and share, teach, but in a way that keeps them engaged. Then when it comes to the actual content itself, slides are a great way, right? Having engaging slides. But here's a key if you're doing a webinar funnel or depending on what kind of, maybe even a VSL funnel with slides. You should not be sitting on a slide realistically for any longer than 30 seconds. 60 seconds. 60 seconds is pushing it. And so you might think, well, what does that mean? How am I going to cover all this in-depth information in 30 seconds on one slide? Now, there are rare exceptions, but what should be happening is you space out your content. So instead of making, we'll just keep going with this tax example, instead of making a webinar training or a training of any kind of VSL, whatever it is, where you have this one slide that has the age breakdown or kind of like sets the stage with the age, how much money they have, their tax brackets. Then it has like a chart showing the tax brackets and them filling the buckets. And then it has, tax savings or what they would have had to spend. And then it has their savings all on one slide. You break it up. You go, hey, we've got Mary and Joe. They're 61. They've got 2 million in assets. And right now they're in a 33% tax bracket. Here's how we fill their buckets. And then you have a buckets and kind of explain this. Here's how much they were going to have to spend. And you would have another slide, obviously. Here's how much they saved. Same exact concepts, but instead of sitting on this one slide for 5 minutes, we were moving between slides. And we just broke it up. And that instantly makes your content more engaging and we're portraying the same information as we did before. So that's one big thing when it comes to your educational content. In terms of your hooks, how do you actually make engaging hooks? Scenery. It's funny, we were in our digital wealth prospecting program, we were just reviewing a campaign we launched, and one of our advisors was on vacation. I don't remember exactly where, I think it was in Canada, but he was at this beautiful waterfall and did an amazing job of recording a piece of content, an ad that was with the waterfall in the background. Still was looking presentable, still was looking like an advisor, but with the waterfall. Now what does that do? It catches people off guard. It's different. It's a change of scenery, something different. And so he said the same exact things he could have said if he was standing behind a white wall or a backdrop that looked like a typical brick wall. But because he had that waterfall, well, guess what? I believe his cost per click on that ad, and it was early, he had just launched it, was somewhere between $1.50 and $2, which is ridiculous in the financial services industry. And that's because all he did was record the same piece of content he had tried in other angles, but at the waterfall. Now, am I saying you're gonna have to record all of your ads at a waterfall? No, but you're changing the scenery, and that itself can be a hook. So instead of going with the outlandish statements or anything crazy, you can just change scenery and catch people off guard by the scenery. Or maybe it's you walking through your office. It's something that's different. It's not the standing there, sitting there, no hand movements, looking extremely awkward on camera. You have to catch people's attention and get them off guard. That's a big thing for the hooks, is really your background, your scenery, catching people off guard. Your tonality can help as well, kind of like we talked about, and also movement. If you see, most advisory ads are all shot standing extremely still. And you can still sit still, but if you move your hands, if you have engaging kind of things going on, this helps drastically. Now, obviously, editing is going to play a role into this as well, but those are some big things for the hook. Now, for the call to action, really the biggest thing here is you just need to have a unique name for your actual strategy call. So instead of saying, book your retirement consultation, everyone's heard that one about 1 million times, make it something unique. Maybe it can be, your income for life session. It can be your tax savings audit, something unique that stands out. And also you need to break down the value and not just talk about the features of, oh, we'll give you a roadmap or we'll give you a breakdown of your taxes, but saying, hey, we'll show you exactly how you can save up to 6 figures in taxes. I didn't say that we were going to give them a Roth conversion plan. I didn't say whatever we were going to do. They don't care about that. They want to know the benefits. So the big thing is going to be obviously the benefits of that call. Now, some people don't provide tangible items. I don't really believe in that for the calls anymore. I used to be very big on, hey, we'll create a free income plan, whatever it is, using Right Capital or whatever softwares you use, which you can still do. But I believe now you should be much more focused on the benefits, because if you do this right, you're positioning yourself as a figure of authority to where your value is your expertise and the opportunity to meet with you because they've seen that you can provide value. Because at the end of the day, everything we're creating in our funnel, we're creating trust assets. We're creating pieces that put us as a figure of authority, show the expertise, and buy prospects into your unique advising philosophy. But the thing is this, in order to do this, we have to retain their attention. So even if you've created this really masterful piece, this beautiful piece of training or this webinar, whatever it is, and you're wondering why you don't get results, it's because it is boring. It is not keeping people engaged. And so by using some of these subtle tactics, again, we dive a lot deeper into these in the Digital Wealth Prospecting Program, but this can help you create content that's engaging but still builds trust and doesn't result in fear mongering or attracting the wrong type of prospects. So I hope this one helped in terms of showing you how you can maybe spice up your content, create better campaigns, and start to attract the right kind of prospects without deteriorating your firm's name and fear mongering to prospects. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe for more weekly content on scaling your advisory firm, where we share our insights on how we are scaling our partner firms from 100 million to $1 billion in assets, and how we are also helping solo and smaller firms scale from 0 to 100 million in assets.